Carthage, the final days before destruction, 146 BC. Welcome to a tour of Carthage in 146 BC, a city standing on the edge of oblivion. For centuries, this magnificent metropolis on the North African coast had been Rome's greatest rival, a commercial empire whose ships dominated the Mediterranean, whose wealth was legendary, and whose very existence challenged Roman supremacy. Now, through advanced AI technology, we've transformed ancient descriptions, archaeological evidence, and historical accounts into photorealistic scenes that will transport you back to the final months of one of the ancient world's greatest cities. In 146 BC, Carthage was a shadow of its former military might, yet still a vibrant center of commerce and culture. The great general Hannibal, who had terrified Rome by crossing the Alps with elephants, had been dead for decades. Carthage had been stripped of its military power, forced to pay crippling tribute to Rome, forbidden from waging war without Roman permission. Yet the city itself still thrived. Its harbors bustled with merchant ships. Its markets overflowed with goods from across the known world, and its citizens clung desperately to the hope that survival was possible. Today, we'll walk through the circular harbors that made Carthage wealthy. We'll visit the marketplaces where African ivory traded alongside Spanish silver. We'll explore the workshops where skilled artisans created the luxury goods that Rome both coveted and resented. And we'll witness the final siege that would end not just a city, but an entire civilization, when Roman determination to destroy its ancient enemy would leave nothing but ashes and salt-sown earth. This is the harbors of Carthage, and even in 146 BC, after decades of decline, they remain an engineering marvel that speaks to the maritime genius of the Punic people. The complex consists of two harbors, the rectangular merchant harbor opening to the sea, and behind it, the famous circular military harbor, though the warships that once filled it are long gone, surrendered to Rome after the Second Punic War. The merchant harbor still bustles with activity this morning, though with an undercurrent of anxiety that wasn't present in earlier times. Dozens of ships crowd the docks, broad-beamed merchant vessels from Egypt laden with grain, sleek Phoenician traders carrying cedar from Lebanon, Greek ships bearing wine and olive oil, and local coastal vessels bringing salted fish and purple dye from Carthaginian settlements along the African coast. The smell is overwhelming. Salt water and fish, the sweet scent of exotic spices, the pungent odor of dye works, tar used to waterproof ships, and the sweat of hundreds of dock workers. The longshoremen work with practiced efficiency, forming human chains to unload cargo. These are free men, not slaves. Carthaginian tradition holds that important work should be done by citizens who have a stake in the city's prosperity. They call to each other in Punic, the Phoenician dialect that is Carthage's native tongue, though many also speak Greek and some broken Latin for dealing with foreign merchants. A cargo master checks inventory on a wax tablet, his stylus moving quickly as he tallies amphorae of wine, bales of cloth, and wooden crates containing goods from the interior of Africa. Ivory tusks, exotic animal hides, and small bags of gold dust. Near the quay, a ship captain argues with a grain merchant over payment terms. The captain's weathered face shows the strain everyone feels. Rome has been making increasingly aggressive demands, and the political situation grows more precarious by the month. Quote zero, the merchant mutters bitterly. But still they bargain, still they trade, because commerce is in the Carthaginian blood. This city was founded by Phoenician traders from Tyre nearly 7 centuries ago, and even now, facing existential threat, the markets continue. The circular military harbor behind the commercial port stands as a haunting reminder of former glory. The central island, once the headquarters of Carthage's formidable navy, now sits largely empty. The covered ship sheds that could house 220 warships in perfect secrecy from enemies stand vacant, their wooden doors weathered and unused. A few old men, veterans of past naval campaigns, sometimes gather here to remember when Carthaginian quinqueremes ruled these waters, when the sight of Punic sails made Greek and Roman merchants flee for port. This is the Agora of Carthage, the great marketplace that serves as the commercial heart of the city. Unlike the Roman Forum, with its emphasis on politics and law, the Carthaginian Agora is first and foremost a place of trade. a reflection of the merchant culture that built this civilization. The large square is surrounded by colonnaded buildings, their architecture showing the mixed heritage of Carthage, Phoenician traditions blended with Greek influences, and even some elements borrowed from Egypt. The morning market is in full swing, and the diversity of goods on display is staggering. In one section, African merchants from the interior display their wares on colorful woven blankets, ivory tusks of various sizes, lion and leopard pelts, ostrich feathers, and small cages containing exotic birds whose bright plumage catches the eye. These traders have traveled for weeks across the desert, following ancient caravan routes that bring the riches of Inner Africa to the Mediterranean coast. Nearby, metalworkers display their crafts, bronze mirrors polished to perfection, silver jewelry set with semi-precious stones, iron tools and weapons of superior quality. Carthaginian metallurgy is renowned throughout the Mediterranean, and these artisans represent generations of accumulated knowledge. A master jeweler works at a small portable forge, demonstrating his technique to attract customers. He heats a silver wire over coals, then bends it with practiced precision into an intricate design, his hands steady despite his advanced age. His apprentice, a boy of perhaps 12, watches intently while working a small bellows to keep the coals hot. The textile section fills the air with color and the smell of dye. Carthage is famous for its purple dye, extracted from murex shells gathered along the coast, a labor-intensive process that makes the resulting cloth incredibly valuable. Bolts of purple fabric in various shades, from deep royal purple to lighter lavender, hang on display. A cloth merchant haggles with a wealthy customer over a particularly fine piece, his hands gesturing expressively as he extols the quality of the dye, the fineness of the weave, the prestige of owning such a garment. The customer, a Carthaginian aristocrat identifiable by his finely embroidered tunic and gold rings, examines the cloth critically before making a counteroffer. Food vendors occupy their own section of the agora, and the smells here are intense. Fresh caught fish laid out on beds of seaweed, their scales still gleaming. Baskets of dates, figs, and pomegranates from Carthaginian orchards. Wheels of cheese made from sheep and goat milk. Amphorae of olive oil and wine. A baker sells flatbread hot from his portable oven, the bread stuffed with spiced lamb, a Carthaginian specialty. Workers on their brief midday break purchase these, eating quickly before returning to their labor. But beneath the commercial bustle, there's an unmistakable tension. People speak in lower voices than normal. Conversations pause when Roman merchants pass by. And there are more Romans in the market than there used to be, their Latin conversations standing out among the predominantly Punic speech. Everyone knows that Rome has been looking for a pretext to destroy Carthage. The city has obeyed every humiliating demand, surrendered its weapons, paid crushing tribute. Yet still the Romans are not satisfied. The elderly remember when Carthage was a power to be feared. The young have known nothing but decline and subservience. This is a typical Carthaginian residential district, where you can witness how ordinary citizens live in these uncertain times. The houses here are built in the Phoenician style, tall, narrow structures of 3 or 4 stories, packed tightly together along winding streets. The ground floors are often workshops or shops, with the family's living quarters above. Then, like Roman houses that turn inward around a central courtyard, these buildings are oriented to catch the sea breezes that make the North African heat bearable. Step inside the home of a successful potter, a man who has built a prosperous business over 20 years of careful work. The ground floor is his workshop, and the space is organized with the efficiency of long practice. Clay storage bins line one wall, filled with different grades of clay brought from deposits in the surrounding countryside. A large potter's wheel occupies the center of the room, foot-powered, capable of producing vessels from tiny oil lamps to massive storage amphorae. Shelves along the walls hold works in various stages of completion: unfired greenware, pieces waiting to be painted, finished products ready for sale. The potter himself is at work, his hands moving with unconscious skill as he shapes a medium-sized amphora on the spinning wheel. He's perhaps 45 years old, his hands permanently stained with clay, his forearms strong from decades of this repetitive motion. His oldest son, a young man of 20, prepares clay nearby, kneading it to remove air bubbles and achieve the perfect consistency. A younger son, barely 10, carefully paints a geometric design on an already fired piece, his tongue poking out in concentration as he tries to match his father's precision. The potter's wife descends from the living quarters above, carrying a basket of bread and dried fruit for the midday meal. She's a capable woman who manages the household finances and often handles sales when customers come to the workshop. They exchange a few words in Punic. She mentions that the price of wheat has risen again, that the Roman tax collector came by yesterday asking questions. The potter's face tightens, but he says nothing, just returns to his work. What can be said? They are Carthaginians, and they endure. The living quarters on the upper floors are modest but comfortable. The family sleeps in small bedrooms on woven reed mats covered with wool blankets. The main room serves multiple purposes: dining, socializing, working on household tasks. The walls are plastered and painted with simple frescoes depicting maritime scenes: ships, fish, waves. A reminder that Carthage's identity is inextricably tied to the sea. A small household shrine holds images of Tanit, the patron goddess of Carthage, and Baal Hamon, the chief god. The potter's wife makes daily offerings here, praying for the safety of her family in these dangerous times. From the rooftop terrace, you can see across the city, the gleaming temples on the Bursa Hill, the harbors beyond, and in the distance, the hazy outline of Sicily across the strait. But you can also see something that fills every Carthaginian with dread: smoke, rising from Roman military camps that have been established in the surrounding countryside. The Romans claim they're protecting Carthage from its enemies. Everyone knows they're preparing for something far more sinister.